Welcome back to another episode of Northwoods Whitetails podcast. I'm your host, Joey Davis. On this week's episode, we sit down with Ryan Gelinas out of central New Hampshire. John Wright joins me, and we sit on Ryan's back porch, watch some cattle in the distance, and shoot the breeze, talking about, how Ryan got into hunting and how it's evolved. He loves to track. He loves to bow hunt. He's been very successful at all of it, all across the country. And Ryan's just an all-around good dude. He's a good human. I think you guys will enjoy this episode. You can also watch this episode on YouTube. Brooke filmed it. And without further ado, let's dive right into this.
Probably 5, 6. I started it was deer drives. That was kind of like in the family. That's what they did. So as a kid, that's kind of that's all you got. You learn from what you got around you. And so I loved it. My parents would take me out of school on Wednesday because that's when rifle started. And my dad took the week off. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday was the vacation for deer hunting. And that's how I grew up, was strictly that. And then as I get older, you start to change a little bit. But that was just walking around my dad in the woods, following him around and figuring out. It's just kind of how it started. So it was always fast paced. Deer were moving, getting glimpses of tails, and it's you know how that is. And
learn to shoot on them.
Well, as the time came, and then I was able to carry a gun. That's kind of how I spent probably till I was, I would say 20, 22, was doing deer drives.
Yeah. I think that's how a lot of people grow up doing it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think back then that was kind of a big thing, Yeah. People were working hard and didn't have a lot of time, so my dad, that's all he hunted was that week.
Yep.
He literally took that week off. That was his vacation, and we'd fill the freezer, and it was fun.
Yeah.
My uncle would come, my mom, that's the coolest part. She always every day was with us.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You think about it, it was before social media, before cell phones, all that stuff. So
it's just hunting.
If you wanted to know what someone shot or how their season was going, you had to physically talk to them. There was no texting, none of that.
No, or go drive down to their house and see what's hanging in the tree.
You either hunted with them and you knew, or, you had to have a conversation. A lot of that's gone away. People don't even communicate anymore.
Yeah, just look at photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are like some of my best memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is someone would shoot a deer, and it was like, I'd be at home, be like waiting for my uncle to show up, my other uncle to show up, the neighbor to show up.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was
yeah.
I'd be right inside waiting, run outside, like, look at the deer.
Yeah.
It was the best. But you did. That was that's kind of how, for me, that's how I learned the shooting. It was shooting at running deer. And,
Lead them.
It was a blast, but.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I've been in the car business for 14 years, sales manager at Bank Chevrolet, but leading up to that, from high school and college years, got into welding and electrical and did that for probably 10, 11 years, and then just happened to meet the right people, and the opportunity kind of came, and I figured I'd try it out, and it worked out, and now I'm sales manager there for the past five years. So that's kind of the work side of it. 3 kids, so busy with that, and that takes a lot of your free time up. So that's one of the big things with now the hunting wise, is just like some of your best days I can't go because it's either work related or with the kids. So
yeah. How old are your kids?
So my oldest, he's 15. Next year he'll be driving. And then my daughter, she's 13, and then I have a youngest is 9.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
They keep you busy.
Yeah. And they've all done a little bit of the hunting and, killed a few critters. But they're not like completely, over the top about it. My youngest, he's there, but he can, some days he's all about it. Some days he's not, just because there's a lot out there now.
He'll find his time.
Yeah. I don't push him to it. I basically just kind of expose them to different things. And if they take to it, I'll follow them, but But I'll at least show them, whether it's fishing, hunting, sports. Just try to let them try everything.
You just can influence them so much, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah. But yeah, like we had talked about in the past was more, just finding, especially with tracking deer, with snow, there's so many days that are good in the season. So if for me, I could have to work on that day and it's the perfect snow and I got to sit there and look at it.
You can't pick and choose your days.
No, it hurts. But so a lot of times I'll try to do a little extra on the scouting side of it, just to get myself more prepared in a sense for that 1 or 2 days that I can get there. And if it's not perfect, I got to try to make it perfect somehow.
Well, you've been doing pretty good the last however many years, picking and choosing your days.
Yeah, the stars have aligned, but this, a lot of luck goes involved with all that stuff. But
you got a nice one last year.
Yeah.
Was that Maine, New Hampshire?
Last year I got one in Maine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was last day of the season.
Was it?
Yeah, I almost didn't buy my tag. Yep.
Sound familiar?
It does sound familiar.
Yep.
Yeah, I waffled on it. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get up there. And then finally I was like, well, I'm going to do it. That's the last day. It's the only day I got. And
worth the money.
Bought the tag and off we went.
Nice.
Yeah. That was a good day. That was fun.
What was 8-pointer?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was old snow. So it was, but like I said, that's all I had. So I had to go.
What'd you do? Cut his track?
Yeah, I got up there early and drove around and didn't really find anything that I liked or was worth really, what was fresh and what was old was really the biggest thing. But I had gone up and down the road and I got caught off on the road by another vehicle on the road, and there was a gentleman sitting in. He got out and I was like, "You good? You need anything? You stuck? What's going on?" And he was like, "No, I'm getting ready to overlook this cut." So I was like, "All right, I'm going to back up out of here." So I backed up and I went up, around the corner and, down maybe a mile or so. And I just parked and got off the road and started walking up probably a couple hundred yards, and I cut a track that looked probably the freshest that I saw that was within reason of size. So kind of got on it and tried to catch up. Was really the goal there. Yeah, I actually caught him top of one of the mountains, smaller mountains, but he was up on the top bedded and jumped him up.
Huh.
And then that was...
He by himself?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That was when I was trying to figure out the GoPro thing.
Yeah.
Did you have one on?
Well, I thought I did.
Oh, no.
I was just, I was more just... I've done a few, self-film stuff for myself.
Yeah.
Just for a little memory, something I can show the kids, something I could just... A lot of times, too, like with bow hunting,
Yeah.
It's slow. You're in a tree. It's a little bit easier to do that.
Yeah.
So I've done a few, self-filmed hunts that way, and it's enjoyable. You get to see your shot, see where you hit the deer.
Yeah.
And then also, like I said, the memory. Show your kids, show guys in camp.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. So it's kind of called low-end film, I guess, but it's something.
That's cool.
So I was like, maybe I'll, try to get this tracking job. So I did some, the pre-stuff and different things. And I jumped a deer, and I was like, well, this is figure out that GoPro thing, and wasn't quite doing what I thought. And I just, I didn't put the time in to really figure it out, I guess. So that's kind of what I've been doing recently, is trying to figure out how it all works and keeping the batteries going and that type of stuff. But no, so I took my time, took the 20 minutes or half an hour that I needed to let him, because it was late in the season. So he's tired. He's, he's really, if he bumps into maybe a late season doe that's got something going on, maybe he'll get that burst of energy. But I figured he was tired. So I gave him his time and then carried on with him. But it was good because I got to his first spot where he turned around to look back at me.
How far was that when you jumped?
It was he probably took it, maybe quarter mile, could be talking hundreds of yards type of thing.
He ran quite a ways.
Yeah, he ran a ways, and then when he started to walk, and then he did his little turn around and look back down to see what was going on. He didn't see me, so fortunate enough, when I got there, he had walked out of that J-hook. And
right.
As soon as that happened, I was like,
back in the game.
Yeah. This may end in my favor. So
yeah.
So I actually, after that happened, I went probably another 100 yards, he was walking now. So I was just kind of looking at the contour of the land, trying to figure out when to really be slow. But a big bull moose standing right there, right on his tracks, just looking right at me. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I kind of hung with him for a minute and watched that. And then he kind of turned and trotted down through the woods. And he was obviously he was in the buck's tracks. So then I followed. They kind of went the same direction for a little bit. And then he went down, and then that buck kept going up grade. So kind of followed, slowly, poking along with it because he was walking. I knew he wasn't that far in front of me because it just happened. So got to the first kind of ridge top where it kind of flattened out. And I was like, I feel like he's,
Close.
He could be right there. So I just stopped for a minute, and I step by step crept up to where you could just see over it. And I just got up there, and all of a sudden I saw his horn turn, and I saw him. He was laying in his bed.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was muzzleloader too, so I was like, oh, I got to pay attention on this shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a little window, but I was like, he doesn't see me. And he was looking right back my direction, but the timing from when I stepped up, he turned. So I was stopped when the timing was perfect.
Yeah.
And that's how how it is.
Yeah.
It's all matching up. If it was a different second, he caught me before, and I'm on to the races again. So yeah, I stepped up, and I was like, oh, he don't see me. And I was on him. I'm like, all right, let's make this one count. And yeah, he didn't even get out of his bed. So I was pretty fortunate. That was cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the drag, so that's always it's a whole nother ball game. That really, you guys know.
Oh, yeah.
That was the
last day, huh?
That was the last day.
Nice.
What time of day did you shoot him?
Shot him at, 10:30? Yeah, about 10:30. Yeah, 10:30.
So you had some time to get him out of there.
Yeah. Still took me it was still daylight when I got to the truck, but it was, I was getting there.
Yep.
Area you've ever hunted before, or
Nope.
just kind of went on a whim?
Yep. I do like I was saying before, so basically with work and life and how fast it can be, and I sometimes, for some reason, I take on too much.
Yep. So
I really kind of got into the e-scout, using the internet and using the maps.
Yeah.
And just kind of, okay, here's an area, this is what it looks like. And now you can go as far as going back to monthly snapshots of what's going on. So you can age a cut.
Yep.
How old is that cut? And you can just go back and figure out how old it is. And this place was a little bit older. So I was even when I got there, I was like, oh, this is going to be rugged because it was so thick everywhere.
Yeah.
And he just happened to put himself in a place that was nice for me. So it worked out. But
that's all you need.
But yeah, so never knew the area. E-scouted that one. I kind of branched off from something that I learned prior. So I had hunted, and I just said, all right, I'm going to
go see something
I
new.
just want to keep learning the area so that as I get older, I can hunt more, of that area.
It's going to take you a while to learn that area if you keep killing them on the first day. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah. But yeah, that e-scouting is just, it helps me because I can see it kind of, photographic memory. And also nowadays you can offline maps and all that. There's just so much. I try not to get too far down that rabbit hole of using electronics because I'm more of a, good sense of direction, good,
traditional.
Yeah.
Put your nose to the grindstone and go.
Yeah. But for me, like I said, not being able to get up there as much, I use that and then I trial and error. And sometimes you get to those places and it's not what it looks like. Obviously,
yeah, it's garbage.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, well, we get to another Maine buck up there. It's kind of a different story when it came to the dragging him out. But so this one I was using the maps to get him out of the woods.
Oh, really?
So the year before a certain thing happened and it kind of made me laugh after the fact. But so I was up there, I was using the maps and there was a spur road that kind of went up so far. And I was like, all right, I can get him to there. Then I think I'll be able to drive my truck to there. So I dragged down to that spur road to the end. There was a cut there, but left the deer and down the truck I went. Got, close to the truck. Well, that spur road had boulders. So I had to hoof it right all the way back up to the deer and then drag him back down. But,
no kidding.
Yeah. It's just funny because it's the year before it was opposite. You know? I was like, no, I better not go to there because I don't think I can get in there. So I'm going to drag all the way back to the truck. And I went up scouting after the fact, and I'm like, I'm going to drive that road, see if I can even get there. Yeah, I could get there.
Huh.
So it would have been a half a mile drag instead of a, mile and a half, 2 hour, whatever it was.
Yeah. Tell me about that buck. Tell me about 2 years
the
ago
one
now?
before that? Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, so that's kind of a cool one too, so the day before was Thanksgiving, and we were having dinner at 11, 12 o'clock. And I knew I had the next day off, so I was going to be able to go up and hunt. So I was like, all right, the day before, I wanted to see I'd never been to this area before either. So I was like, so I got up in the morning on Thanksgiving, drove up, 3-4 hours, whatever it was, got there, drove, scouted. It was still season too. So I ended up finding what may have been his track that day. So I got up that morning and I was like, I'll follow that track a little bit. So I followed that track for a little bit. I ended up running out of time, but I was able to see the whole area, found that buck track, and I was like, all right. And it seemed like maybe there was another one in the area. It was hard to tell, but I was like, well, I'm coming back in the morning. I'll be back. So I got back in the truck and drove all the way back down to be here for noontime. So it was a little bit crazy, but I was up there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I did like 7-8 hours of driving for 2 hours of scouting, but
wow.
It just, I felt like I had to better my chances that day that I had. So, And that was the last day of rifle up there.
Huh.
So I got up the next day, drove back up there, didn't find a track. Drove around, no tracks, no nothing. Oh, I'll go try nothing. So I was like, all right. Well, he was here yesterday, or within hours of that day. So I was like, well, I'll just park up the end and I'm going to go up to the mountaintop and I'm going to run the ridge all the way across in parallel and should be able to cut something. So that's what I did. I basically parked, hiked up in there, cut some deer tracks. I didn't cut what I thought would a good buck track. So I had gone up, spun around the backside and went up into the deep green. And when I started to get in there, I had cut a decent track. But it was kind of a little bit older track, but I followed that up in there. And it was amazing because it was so thick in those spruces. And then he had this it was like it was his own path.
Yeah.
He took me through that and I was just like, man, it's amazing what they know and where to go. And he went through that whole thing, weaseled up through there. And then I kind of branched off that track because it was old. It was a little bit older and it had snowed about 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Those hours it had snowed. So I kind of was like, I'm just going to keep going and maybe I'll catch his track again, more fresh. So I ended up finding a smaller track and I'm like, well, I'm just going to follow this deer and then maybe he'll bring me to some more deer. So I had followed that track. I ended up jumping that deer. It was a small buck, 4, 6 point or whatever, and he took off and I just kind of stuck with him on that plain. And I come down over and got in some moose tracks and went a little further. And then I came over and then I was like, oh, here he is. It was, there were some does in there. They were moving deer around. And so I had gotten on his track there and there was a bunch of deer. So I was kind of just going with him, but I was able to follow his track because it was decent size. He had a good foot on him. And
how far from where you found his track the day before?
To be honest with you, it was probably, as a crow flies, just up the top of the mountain, maybe 3/4 of a mile.
So he didn't hardly go.
No, he was there. He just didn't. He just didn't cross the road.
Yeah.
So it was. He could have crossed the road. I would have been on him that way, but that's why I was like,
he's here. I'm going to box him out and figure him out.
Yeah. I just knew it was going to be a matter of time before I maybe cut on his track.
Yep.
So I had cut that track, and I thought at first I thought I jumped him, just the way that everything was an explosion. I thought I jumped the deer, and then they all were out of there. And then as I was going along, I realized he was kind of like herding cattle. Mm-hmm. He'd cut around, and you'd see where he'd stop, and the doe, whatever, would go the other direction, and he would do the same thing. So I was like, all right, they were here. I didn't bump them. They're just doing deer things right now. So I kind of was sorting around. I got a little bit tough, and then I had 2 tracks that broke away, and I was falling. I'm like, all right, here we go. Now we're straight line, and we're in good shape, and now it's just a matter of catching them. I went along, and got up through, and I just felt like they were in front of me the whole time. And I got to this little ravine, and I stopped, and I saw something, and I had a big doe. I mean, just a monster doe. She come around and run right to me. I could almost touch her with the barrel of my gun. She stopped and was like, "Oh!" Really? She spun, took off, and as she took off, I saw a flicker coming behind, and it came up, and it was a little buck. It was like a little 6 point.
And you're like,
I'm like, that ain't the deer. There's no way that's the deer.
Yeah.
There's no way. And then he followed that doe up or whatever, and And again, I'm not looking, I don't need 150 inch deer. I'm not passing up a 120 inch deer, 110 inch deer,
Right.
whatever. But he was a small young deer, and
I knew
it
wasn't what
wasn't
you were
that
following.
deer. Yeah. And that was the biggest reason. So I spun around and hoofed it all the way back to where everything happened. And then kind of took my time, figured out that he had gone down with a different deer down over. So I went down over, and actually I took a break for a little bit just because kind of sort out everything. And at that point, I think it was probably like 9:30, somewhere around there, closer to 10. And I got down to a bench, and on that bench, him and that doe just went out straight. And as I was going along that bench, I noticed the snow had changed because the sun had come out, the temperature rose, and you could see that the snow changed. And then all of a sudden, they're picking their feet out, and they're bringing the snow with them and dropping it.
Balls of snow on top.
Yeah. And it was getting squeaky for me too. You know, it started to get squeaky, but like all I knew was like, this just happened, and that just happened. So they're right here. And I went probably, 400 or 500 more just on them, following them. And all of a sudden, they kind of did a little separation, then got back together. And then he went dead left and she went down, or it went down. I'm assuming it was a doe. He went straight left. And I was like, what's going on here? That's kind of interesting. So he went straight left. And so I stopped there for a minute, just like looking, is he bedded to my left? Where is he? Or what's happening here? He obviously didn't like her. So he went left. So I really slowed down and just step by step. And he kind of went up, and you could see he started to feed a little bit. And then he started to do that little bit of that turn. And I was like, he's got to be here. He's got to be here. So I literally was just that death creep, just staring, death creep, just looking for anything to move. And I went probably another, I'd say 20, 30 more steps. And I just come over a little bit of a rise, and I caught him. He was raking a tree.
Really?
Yeah. Caught him with his horns in the tree.
Wow.
Broadside, just standing there just messing around with the tree. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is all like in motion.
Yeah.
More slowing it down.
All within a second.
I literally pulled up, and he just dropped, and I was like, oh my God.
Okay.
Wow.
That's a wicked buck.
Yeah, that was just he was a good one.
Yeah.
And so you know how it is. You get up there, you see a deer at a tree, big body, you see some, good horns on him, you shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he fell with his head upside down in the snow.
Oh, so when you grabbed it.
So when I walked up, I was like, boy, that's a big body. That's he just had the long hair, big chest was sticking up. I was like, wow, he's got to be 200 pounds. He's got to be.
Yeah.
And then I grabbed the horns, and all of a sudden it's flips around. I'm like, whoa, what just happened?
That's sweet.
Yeah, I was like, that's a good deer.
How many points has he got?
Oh, what does he have?
He's got at least 10. He's got at least 10, if not more, right? He had a little something on the bottom.
Yeah. I think he's a mainframe 10. He's got that little droppy kicker, split little fishtail thing. But he was just the chest. But he was a short body deer.
Huh.
So he would have the deer that has that wide, stance.
Yeah. But he was still, what'd you say, 190s?
191.
Yeah.
And that's
big that time.
Day after.
Yeah, and for a short deer, that's.
I don't even know how Thanksgiving fell that year, but it was. I think maybe after that was probably December 1st or something. It was right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good buck.
Yeah, I was happy with that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then came that drag. So that I was telling you about the year after, kind of how it happened. Well, the year prior, so I shot that deer. I was pumped. I called a couple of different people, and it was cool too because that was the one area that had service. Everything else had no service. And it's where I ended up getting him. He had service. So
nice.
It was cool. And so I was looking at maps and made a few phone calls, and I looked down and I saw that there was a road that had come, as I measured it was about maybe a little less than a half a mile, if that. So I was thinking, okay, I can drag him to that road and then pick him up. And then I'm like, well, that road was road off of a road off of a road.
Yep.
So I was like, there's got to be rocks somewhere. Because down where I was parked, there was a bridge that was knocked out. So you don't know. Like, there could have been a bridge that when the loggers logged it, they knocked it out and they were done.
Yeah.
So I kind of sat there and made a do I drag it all the way to the truck, or do I drag it just downhill to that? Would have been so easy. And then drive, walk to my truck, drive around, get the deer. I was like, well, that road's got to be closed. There's got to, I ain't going to be able to get there. So I'm going to drag it all the way to the truck. So that was a mission. that took every ounce of
I remember
me.
you telling me that.
That was just one of those things it's this, you embrace the suck. I don't know how to really, but you love it. When you're done, you're just like, oh man, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. While you're doing it, you're saying, boy, I don't know.
Yeah. No, you would.
I'd go 3/4. I mean, I'm not a big guy either. So I mean, I'm lighter than the deer.
Yeah.
So I'm going in. I just remember the time. Just you drag and you stop, and I'd use him as a pillow, lay down, just relax for a little bit, and then keep going. And
Good
it was
all
just,
day.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I told I had all day. It took me. I got back to the truck. It was dark when I got back. It got to the point where the last little bit was dark.
Nice.
3 feet at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it can be.
But it was fun. It's fun. I do it, love doing it. But that's that other part to it, There's the persistence of getting them.
Yeah.
And then you got
the work.
Then the work, but it's good work. Yeah. It's honest work.
Oh yeah. No, it is honest work. It is. So, you work to kill him.
Yeah.
You're going to work to get him out.
Oh yeah. Yep. No, it's fun. And for me it's tough too. I've tried to figure out the hunting buddy thing. Haven't quite got there myself because I can't commit to. At the same time, it's tough to commit to certain days that I can go. So it's hard to kind of line it up with somebody else to do the same thing. And when you're traveling, I did, and it's funny, I actually had a buddy of mine that was kind of in the area, and he was like, you need help? I'm like, I knew he had to drive an hour and a half to me. I was like, I got it. I'm good.
I think as long as you got acquaintances, friends that are around, right, that can come. Yeah. I mean, you're better off
situational.
You're better off doing you. Yeah. At the end of the day, whatever that may be, especially if you're going to track bucks, right? You go with your nose. That's the best thing that you can do, right? You met that guy on the road. He was watching the cut. You turned around. You went somewhere else. You cut a buck track. You killed him, right? I mean, you don't have somebody else steering you a direction. You go with your gut is what you do. Yeah. Like you knew that day before you cut that buck track. And, well, he's right here on the mountain, right? You don't need somebody else in your ear going, oh, well, let's go up this side, right? Like, you know what to do. You made it happen.
That's right.
Yep.
It's instinct. I mean, that's why, you guys know. You guys are trackers and killers. And
Yeah.
You know what it takes. We've all,
the
different moments and scenarios.
Yep.
But it's fun.
Something tracking since you got out of, like hunting with your family and whatnot. When did you get into like the tracking world of things?
So it kind of to be honest, it's kind of always been there in a sense. Even when we were doing some of the deer drives with the family, certain scenarios would happen and they would kind of move on. And I was like, wait a minute, we're leaving something behind and then if we had a little bit of snow, I just always enjoyed that part of it. Just like there's a deer track. I want to see where it's going. I can't leave it. I want to know what's going on here. I want to know where he goes. I want to see it. So I always kind of took to that, but there was times whereas, you get the seasons when you had the snow and we'd get into a buck and it was like, Dad, I'm sticking on this buck. And again, these are the days too, where land wasn't like it is now. Mm-hmm. It's totally different now. When we started hunting some of these areas, there was no houses in these areas. There was no signs telling you couldn't be there, any of that. Yeah. It was, you could stay on them for a little bit. Now you can't. So that's kind of what pushed me away from it in these areas.
Right.
Is that you can't just get out there and go, and
I can relate. Same area that I grew up hunting. I can't do it the way that I want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm.
And for me too, with getting away and getting up into there, whether New Hampshire, or Maine, I gotta be I gotta be focused. I can't go tracking and be thinking about something else. I can't. So for me to get away, the service is gone. Yeah. That phone can just.
The best thing for you is no service.
I'll leave that thing in the truck. I keep my mind has to be, because when I'm on it, like I'm just focused. I can't be thinking about something else, because then there he goes, because I was thinking about work or I was thinking about whatever it may be.
It's tough though, right? I mean, You know, you were just telling me, what are you guys selling a month for cars?
Yeah, we're fortunate. I mean,
right.
you
know, you got all of that on the back end. You got your
Yeah.
family on the back end. You know, and then to be able to focus on the buck track that lies in front of you, it can be extremely difficult.
Yeah, but it's true. You start thinking about something different. You're just all you're doing is just walking.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Puts you right out of the game. Start thinking about something else.
Yeah, and it's, you know, when I first started, to be honest, I remember I can go back to days when we had some snow and it was me, my dad, my mom, and sometimes my brother was with us, and we'd get on that buck. I would go. I'd run that deer. I'll never forget a day that we got on him in the morning. My mom had missed him. She was like, he was a good buck. I'm like, all right. We had some snow. I'm like, I'm gonna stay on him. You guys just, you know, just be around, and he may walk by you. I'm just gonna dog him. So I'd get on that deer and I'd run him, jump him, and didn't know really what I was really doing. I could stay on the track, I could follow him. I was just a dog, though. I was just hounding him.
Yeah.
Hoping that he would tree like a bear, you know? And that day that I finally ran that deer so far, and it was, my dad was waiting or whatever, and I was working my way through this piece. I was on that deer, and he ended up crossing the road, and I had to stop, and I was cutting out to meet with my dad, and my dad had unloaded his gun to get in the truck. So he unloads his gun. And the deer come by through a little opening in that little, like it was whatever, like a grown-up field type thing. And he goes, that deer came out, and his tongue was hanging, jaw open. He was just exhausted.
That's hilarious.
From just running him all day, you know. But I didn't know. Hey, if I go what I know now, chances would have gone up. I'm not saying I would have killed a deer, but I mean, probably.
You probably would.
You never know. But
yeah,
it's just now knowing how they act and what they do. You know? But
yeah, well, you got to have that go in you though too, right? Then not give up.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to have it.
But yeah, so it kind of went into, started doing the tree stand thing a little bit, and
yeah, you like to hunt. You like to bow hunt.
Yep.
You do quite a bit. Ohio.
Yeah. Virginia, Ohio.
Yeah.
And then I do New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long you been going to Ohio?
11 years.
Nice.
Yep. Jared out there has got a good place. We stay out there. He's got a ton of land. Tons of land. Actually, so I'd go back probably 12, 13 years. I started to research a little bit, and Brett Joy.
Yep.
Kind of got me hooked up out there and hunted out there with Brett a bunch, and
nice.
You know, that kind of stuff. But no, it's great out there.
Yeah.
Jared does a phenomenal job of just keeping good ground for us to hunt. And
you've had some success out there?
Yep.
Anything that stands out in your mind?
They're all good. I mean, again, there's 160, 170. There's 180 around one of them trees, you know, at any given time. But I go out and an 8-pointer comes by me, and he's 4.5, 5.5. Got some bases or something. He's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy the hunt, the process, and a good rack buck.
You don't care. You don't care what kind of inch he's got or anything.
No. I guess we've all progressed. I mean, you go from, you know, when I first started hunting, it was, I got 5 tags, killing 5 deer. That was my goal. You know, not saying it always happened, but just saying that was the goal when I first started. And then it got into let's shoot a nice buck, not a spike horn, or, you know, it just kind of progressed and evolved over time, which you hear everyone talk about. And then I got to a point where I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole where it was like, oh, I want to shoot a 150-inch deer, 140-inch deer. Like, that's what I want. And I didn't enjoy it as much. It was, you know, I just
took the hunt out of it.
It kind of, the fun, the hunt, all that stuff. And then I just started, once I really shot a few older class deer, saw people shoot older deer, just seeing the deer, and you start to learn about what they are. It just seemed more of like an obsession of that. Yeah. Just they're the monarch. They're the king of the forest. They're so smart what they do. Yeah. So I just kind of fell in love with that aspect of it. So yeah, and to me, a 4.5-year-old deer is great. And I'm not saying that I'm not gonna not shoot something that's straight ahead. It's not that. I just, you know,
that's what you want.
That's what I want. Yep. But
Yep.
You know, if a deer goes by 3.5 and I end up
If the hunt was good, then so be it.
if I pull that thing out and a couple buddies and we have a beverage or something and the camaraderie, like
Yep.
that's what I like.
You sit all day?
Out there I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it depends on the day. You know,
Yeah.
if it's a good day, everything's perfect, stars are aligning, like I'm going to sit all day. If it's a warm day out there and, you know, the movement subsides and middle of the day gets really warm, I'll go out and have a sandwich and hang out for a little bit and,
Yep.
and then regroup and head back in.
Have you killed any bucks midday?
Yeah. Yeah. I've killed quite a few bucks midday out there.
Yep.
Yep.
What's the time frame that you usually go?
I for 11 years, I follow the daylight savings.
Yeah.
Yep. I drive out there on daylight savings.
Yeah.
That Saturday. Well, it depends. I mean, the last few years I've gone to Virginia and I'll hunt a couple days and then we go from Virginia to Ohio and just kind of make a little bit longer week out of it. The way my schedule works, when I take a vacation, I can wrap it that way. So
Yeah.
I can, you know, turn it into a couple more days of a vacation.
What are you guys hunting over? Are you hunting over food source? You hunting?
Out there, so you can bait in Ohio,
Yep.
but we typically, it's all natural movement, ridges, funnels, that type of stuff. Don't get me wrong, you can drive down the road in Ohio and you'll see some of them Amish guys get some dump truck loads of corn glowing in the woods.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a big thing out there.
Yeah, dumping corn. Yeah.
But that's what I love about when we go to Jared's. I mean, it's like here, just, you know, obviously there's more deer. You know,
Right.
There's a lot more happening. You see deer fighting, you see grunting, you see running, you chasing. Like,
see them do deer things.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
What do you mean?
Midwest. Why do you think that you see more of that behavior than around here? Just
Better
population.
better age class.
Yeah.
You know, more deer, better age class. I mean, more mature bucks on the landscape. And more bucks on the
More
landscape.
competition.
You'll see more rut activity.
yeah, you're right. I've never really. That's a good question there.
Yeah, you'll see more rut activity and whatnot. I mean, more bucks that you have, whether they're small ones, big ones, or whatever, they'll all start to compete.
Yeah.
And I think they see it at maybe a young age too, where, you know, there's just a lot of a younger class as they're growing up, but there's more of them around, so maybe they just.
Yeah, usually
Kinda
you'll see
learn.
it like, you know, how I've seen it is the smallest ones always go first, right? They're the ones that are always making the most sign and, you know, working scrapes the most and whatnot, and then the big ones right around Halloween time will start doing their daylight, right? But then when things break loose, it's always the 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds that let loose first, and then the big ones come in after. It seems like.
Yeah, you go. Where do you guys go?
I've been all over Ohio, Illinois, Kansas, Wisconsin. I've been all over. I would say probably one place you should see is Buffalo County, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal country. Beautiful. Johnny, you've been close to there.
Close. Yeah, we had 2009. We had a couple leases out. It was like central Wisconsin. It wasn't quite all the way over to Buffalo County, but it was fun. It was a good experience.
It's just so intensely managed.
Yeah.
Right, like deer numbers aren't out of control like they are, let's say, Ohio or Illinois, Kansas, that type of thing, right? It's very intensely managed, but it's some of the most prettiest country that you'll ever hunt in, just bluffs, rolling bluffs. You know, you go drive back in a mile on this dead-end road, and then all of a sudden you come to a farm that's just set right into the berm of the hill, you know, a bluff.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's pretty sweet, but they shoot some phenomenal.
That's like we were talking about earlier, like different countries get.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own little thing that's beautiful. You know?
Yeah.
Different looks.
Yeah, you know, like we hunt Illinois. There's nothing. The only pretty thing about it is the sunsets every night, right? It's just as flat as a pancake, and you get to a little drainage, and it drops down as river bottom. And
that's really the only place where trees are is.
Yep.
Wherever they can't put anything for crop.
Yep, and a lot of the farmers out there that make the most of their crop fields and just push everything right over the bank. So a lot of times you get to the edge of the field, you know, you're looking 40 feet down over the bank, and it's 20 feet just to be 10 feet up, you know?
Yeah.
So.
It's amazing. There's so many deer out there, too, and they're just in those ditches.
Yeah. Kansas is unique, too, if you ever get a chance to go to Kansas. Kansas is fun.
Yeah, I've thought about doing something. And like I said, I've been to Ohio for 11 years, but I love it. It's just It's great. You know, it's the friendships now and the same, there's a group of us that, have always gone.
Yeah.
It's, changed a little bit over the years, but
you never know what you're going to see too.
yeah.
I'm sure you've seen some big ones while you've been out there.
Yep.
What's Virginia like?
It's pretty. It's cattle country, but it's in the mountains.
Is it all Black Angus cattle, or what is it?
They get a little, they got chalets down there, Black Angus, but mostly Black Angus is really, because that's what's marketed.
Yep.
So that's what we have here is a Black Angus, and down there you will see some chalet mix, but typically you won't see, like a chalet bull with chalet cows. You can, don't get me wrong, but you'll do a chalet bull with Black Angus cows, and they'll produce a white cow with a dark nose, not a pink nose.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do. I mean, they go, but they don't like seeing the pink nose with the.
Gotcha. Have you been killing bucks down there?
Yeah, I've last couple of years shot a couple bucks.
Yeah.
I've got a couple good ones down there. Yeah, it's good.
Nice.
It's not like going to Ohio or anything like that, but
Right.
it really reminds me of here. A little bit more population. I don't want to say it's better because I feel like this is. I'd rather go up North Maine. Give me a snowstorm, and that's where I'd want to be. And the deer are really. I mean, there's some New Hampshire and Maine got, I think, some of the best deer out there.
When you come into Vermont,
I know. So this year I'm taking a week later. I saved the vacation week for later, so I'm just going to go with the flow. So that is on the radar. My cousin's got a camp on Maidstone.
nice.
So that could be just a hub for me to, I've messed around there years ago. We went up there one time in the snow, and this was a long time ago, but it just all depends on what happens that week and where I end up.
Yep.
But
yep.
Yeah,
well,
no,
track
it's
record,
there.
you'll kill one the first day in
It's
Maine,
there.
wherever you end up.
But it'll, Vermont's good.
Yeah.
I don't know, you always hear people talking
Save
about.
it for last.
Yeah, that's kind of what I hear. I mean, but it's coming along, right? I mean.
Yeah, it's getting better. It is. I mean, I'd say southern Vermont's where it's at right now. Just if you want to shoot antlers, that's where it's at. Just mild winters, hardly any winters at all, really. Big woods, low pressure. That's where a lot of the big ones are being killed. But yeah. Yep. Bow hunting around here, do you do much of it?
Yep. Yeah. No, I'll be, depending on what this weekend brings, but maybe I'll sneak out Sunday.
Get some picked out?
Yeah.
That was a sheepish yep.
No, you know how it is. Everyone can shoot them with a camera,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've got some trail cameras. They got some deer on it, but
They daylight?
you know how that is. Yeah, I got a couple there in the daylight, yeah.
Nice.
So I've actually changed a little bit over. So I've always done my own thing all the time with everything. Just how it always was, So this is kind of the first, last year and this year, kind of buddied up with somebody in these parts. So we've kind of been running some cameras together and sharing the info and hanging stands for each other if.
Yeah.
And it's
Sharing
kind of cool.
spots.
It's actually been kind of fun.
Nice.
I've always just been so do my thing, and the last 2 years I am enjoying it a little bit more. Again, it's the camaraderie of it, and
Nice.
it's kind of cool. He
Yeah.
does a little scouting, and then I'll go do some scouting, and then we kind of nowadays you can share the cameras,
Yep.
stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
What will you typically target this early in the season? Food source, scrapes.
Probably depends on the year, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm kind of liking this year for the way the acorns are. The way
Because-
they are. Because from what I've seen in some of the places I've been there, those 3 trees don't have any. Those 2 do,
Yeah.
which I kind of like because I gotta, basically I do a lot of with a climber or a mobile setup. I'm usually that first, when I go in, I feel like that's the day
That is the best time.
so whether you're like this, I'll probably just go hike until I find, last week I did it. I actually went for a hike and just to look at an area and didn't really find a lot of acorns, and all of a sudden I come to them and, here's the deer.
Yeah.
So I kind of like to do that. I like to just kind of go and
Be mobile.
just be like, oh, the deer are here.
What are you using for a setup?
So I've got a lone wolf climber.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do the summit climber. They were monster. I mean, yeah.
You can't beat that lone wolf.
Oh, it's just it's easy to take down, put up, it's
Mm-hmm.
stealthy. And now I just now I got my mobile setup, which is a lone wolf setup for.
Yep. 0.5.
Yep.
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 That's a sweet setup.
Yeah.
It's light.
Yeah.
I'm not a saddle guy. Never tried one, and I probably won't.
Yeah.
It's just me. I want to be vertical with the tree.
That's my thing.
That's huge to me.
And
how many times have you been pinched in a tree, and that's what's saving you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know.
It's great for people that I know guys that use it and they absolutely love it. It's not the mobile setup with I've got a couple of guys know we use the same sticks. We've done all that stuff. That's fine. But for me, the platforms for the saddles are almost the same size as the 0.5.
Yeah.
There's very little difference. I mean, yeah, you can get some platforms that are really small, but typically what I've seen they're
small.
They're small.
Yep.
And the 0.5 small. So it's, I'd rather sit like that and not hang off the tree.
Yep.
I know the tree can block you, but the rest of it.
Same.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
Too much things going on for me.
I'm the same way. Are you using the 0.5 sticks? Or are you using longer lone wolf sticks?
They're they're not the 0.5 sticks, but they're what do they call it? They're 17-inch.
Yeah.
Off. They're not the
kilter. Yeah.
But
I find that generally I'll take bare minimum. I'll take 2 sticks. Most of the times I'll take 3 sticks. 3 sticks is all I need. It seems like it gets me 15 feet. I'm good.
And a lot of times too, you can use some branches depending too.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're getting into. But
Yep. I've killed more bucks off out of a stand that's 12 feet in the air than.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even out west. I mean, it's pretty much just what's concealed behind you that makes the biggest difference of all of it.
Yeah.
And the wind, right? I mean, you're gonna sit with the wind at your back. You're not gonna see much. But
yeah, I archery season, I like the stands, and then when the guns come out, now I tend to try to get up north now and
migrate north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you tracked many bucks, New Hampshire?
Mm-hmm. Yep. The year I shot that Maine buck, I shot a 9-pointer.
Oh, no kidding.
Just before it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That was just one of those cool years where it was like everything clicked. I went to Virginia, shot a buck, left there, went to Ohio. Well, actually, it was kind of cool. I went to Virginia, got there that first day, sat that night, shot a buck, left there, drove through the night, went to Ohio, woke up, got in the tree, shot a buck at, I don't know what time. Anyways, afternoon, but that day, shot a buck there. And then I came to New Hampshire. The guns came out, went up north, found some snow, shot that 9-pointer, left there. Then Thanksgiving, then I had to wait a little bit. Then when Thanksgiving came, I went up to Maine, shot that buck. It was just like
beauty.
Just one of those years.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And then but how it is. You do that, and then 2 years you don't shoot a buck. You're like, so take it when you can get it and enjoy it. And
when you're hot, you're hot.
Yeah, it's just
you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah, you just start. I don't know. It's one of those things too. I mean, there's the fun in hunting, and then there's like a little bit to that. You try to push it away, but that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're like, I gotta shoot a buck, or you want it so bad, but you gotta try to push that away and just try to enjoy.
I think social media does that.
Yep, you nailed it.
Terribly. I mean.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with it.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I love to put a buck on social media and kind of for family, friends, and just because that's what it is now. The days of people just having to show up at your house, like we were talking about earlier, kind of slowly going. I love the biggest process is cutting the deer up.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle in Loudon, we go over there, and that's kind of brings me back to the roots.
Yeah,
nice.
People that don't hunt, they show up too, and they have a couple of beverages, and my mom will be there, and and now I haven't brought a deer to the processor in so long that it's more efficient now too.
Yeah,
you learn as you go.
You
fumble through it the first couple times, and then years later you get a little more efficient, so that cut the time down on the work process. But,
nice.
Yeah.
It's funny because I used to always pay someone to cut my deer up, and then it got to a point where the processors were so busy you couldn't even get your deer in, and it was like you're scrambling if it was warm out or whatever. So Melissa helps me. We cut it up ourselves now.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much more convenient and easier. I don't have to like.
What are you doing with all the scraps?
I have a friend that cuts deer, so he lets me dispose of them the way he does, which I'm lucky. But you know, you don't have to wonder what's happening to your meat at the processor. You know, because sometimes, just throw it on the floor over there. It's like, really?
Yeah, we used to always cut our own up, but lately, Brooke knows him, but little small shop, and he does all of ours. But that's how we grew up. I mean, fond memories sitting at my grandfather's table. You'd bring a 4x sheet of plywood and set it on the table, and there'd be 6 of us just sitting there cutting on deer.
Yeah.
There might actually be a memory of me yakking raw deer meat up after I saw my uncle eat a piece. I thought I could eat a piece. Well, he didn't really eat the piece. And I did, yacked everywhere all over that table. I was like 6 years old. Yeah. Good times.
Sometimes you have years like that where you just can't do anything wrong. And then sometimes, like that year you had, sometimes years you can't do anything right and you're struggling. And I had an old guy that used to live up the street from me, and he's dead now, but he was pretty comical. He says, and he always wanted to know what I had going on deer hunting. He'd say, well, you know what you got to do? He says, I said, what's that? He goes, tonight when you go to bed, you got to sleep in it upside down. That'll change your luck around. It's like, okay, yeah. That was his line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time, right? Change your timing up.
Yeah.
Change it up. It's all about timing. Change the timing belt.
Yep.
Well, anything else you guys like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I like just listening to the stories.
I
here.
know.
Yeah.
I know. We're already approaching an hour.
Wow.
Jeez, goes by quick.
You got any other good stories you want to tell, Ryan?
Oh, yeah.
What's another one that stands out in your mind?
On the spot. It's
Yeah.
You shot a pretty good one with your bow in New Hampshire probably, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, that was a good one. That's one of those. That was like a swamp buck.
Yeah.
It was there was a little island that.
Do you know about him?
Yeah, I had a camera, photos of him.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I led on to him, and then figured out what swamp he was going into, and then looked at the swamp, and it was like a little bit of a peninsula type setup that went out.
Yeah.
Figured that's where he was bedding, so I just kind of snuck in with my climber and got close to that edge. Sure, it was October 2nd, I think that was. Acorns were coming down. That's what they were feeding on, and that whole area had the acorns, so he didn't have to move far. He got up, and that's why it was daylight, because he just had to get up, and he went probably 100 yards from his bed at most.
Yeah.
And he was in acorns, so that was his acorns, and I was there waiting for him, so it worked out. Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do in New Hampshire, is shoot a mature buck with a bow.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think now is your time to do it. Like, to me, this time to the first week of October is like the time, and then obviously end of October through. But usually when the guns come out, it's done.
Scrapes I kind of key on them a little bit, and that's kind of blown up now. I mean, now I feel like I go through the woods and every scrape I find's got somebody's string on it or
camera or something.
But that's the social media that's what it's taken to. So everyone's opening scrapes. They're first thing I do is open a scrape and put a camera on it, and
I always
put some sort of scent. I don't know where it comes from, but
I always look around when I see a scrape. I'm like, looking around. Is there a camera here?
Yeah. But they're lethal. I mean, their scrapes are. Yeah. But I tend to always keep it natural. So like, if I see a scrape, sometimes I'll kick it open, but I don't really get into the scents as much, especially around here. I just feel I don't know.
Will you target them early season? Yeah.
I think you can, and then right before like muzzleloader, that like last week, when they're already starting to get kicking. I feel like that's when if you get a good weather. Weather front. And if you're near them, if you're close to them.
Yeah.
You got you can get those little 4-wheeler trails where you can count 6 scrapes down. That's not really, but you get those community scrapes.
Yeah, you get the community ones have been worked. Yeah.
I mean, you put a camera on one of those, and deer on it all the time, and they won't even touch. You won't even know that they've been there.
Yeah.
You know, but they're there. They're
Sniffing
they're doing their thing, sniffing, peeing in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting themselves up in the leaves. But
What was that buck in New Hampshire you killed? What was it?
that one that was the swamp.
Yeah.
That was a 10-pointer. He's in the garage in there, but he was a nice buck.
Was he?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
I don't remember what he weighed, but
Just a dry piece of ground in the middle of a swamp?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, those I mean, a lot of buddies of mine over the year, they always, Gelinas is by a swamp, you know. That's always been one of my keys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just good cover.
Yeah. No, it is.
Depends on the area,
Easy
but a lot of
escape
times,
routes for 'em,
well, that's
too.
what it is, yeah. They can get out on a hump and they
Yep.
can sit there all day and they feel like they put the wind in their favor and they feel like they're bulletproof, so.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You know, they get up they get themselves on some ridges and set themselves up good too. That's another thing. But
Yeah.
that I feel like is probably a lot harder for us to get close to them because they set themselves up so good.
Oh yeah, they
with
get
the
the height
wind.
advantage on you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They put themselves where they can get the big visual, and then
Wind's behind them.
I mean, even you see it all every time you go tracking.
Mm-hmm.
When you jump that buck, you sit there and stop for a minute, and you go, textbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Almost every time. So
Yeah.
and that's like last year when I shot that buck, my mind was, he's right. He's going to be bedded up here. I mean, it was just perfect scenario. Sure shit. There he
There
was.
he
I
is.
mean, exactly in that area.
Yep.
Yeah, that's learning is fun, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
and it's
they-
constant.
Especially them older ones. I mean, they know what they're doing.
They'll teach you a thing or two.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
but they're that's what we kind of enjoy is that because it is hard.
Sure is. That's what keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah, you need some luck and
Yep.
even tracking. You need the deer has to align, but the woods have to align because if you jump them in
The wrong spot.
the wrong spot, you ain't gonna kill them. You need to keep going, and then that's why a lot of times well, you guys know you guys do it all the time, but you get to that cut's just up ahead of you, and you kind of speed up a little bit just to get there, and you're
Oh,
ready.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
It's all about timing.
and that's the time where you catch them in that cut, you're gonna get some lead flying.
Yeah. He gets to that section of wide open hardwoods that you can see through 200 yards. You were motoring through that to catch him on the other side of it.
What do you guys do? What do you think about you get snow early season and tracking, say November 7th. Is it? Then they're putting the miles on. They can run you unless you catch them with a doe and the timing's right. But
Yeah, there's a certain time there. I would say like that first to the 10th, I would say, right? Like if you can cut a good one, chances are he's laying on his gut somewhere. He's not going too far just yet, right? He's making a swing down low. He's probably going back up high, and he's laying down on his gut. But you get to between that 10th and 16th time frame up north anyways, and it's just some of them just zombie walk all day long, just doe to doe to doe to doe, right? And they're not ready yet, but they're just going.
I think it depends on the doe population too,
Mm-hmm.
because if they have enough does close to them, then they don't really go too far. Like if they have enough to check right here, they're not, I've seen that.
Yeah, and I think it is. It's definitely situational location. I'm going to just northern Vermont. It's a long ways between does.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they will pack miles on, and you will too.
it's funny. I kind of was saying because it was one of the first years I went to Maine. A buddy of mine, he showed me kind of the area, just kind of go check this out. So I'd gone up there and I'd got up in the morning. I'd got a place to stay, and I got up and I rode. I found a track that had crossed the road. I'm like, all right, mark that. I like that track. Went a little further, found another track that had crossed the road. It was probably a mile and a half. Marked that one. Went up to another spot, bumped into, ended up being, everyone knew each other type of thing. We were talking. And he's like, yeah, good one right there. I'm going to take that. I'm like, all right, you take that. And I found another one off that other road. I'm going to go take that. So I went around and I'm like, all right, which one do I want to take? I'm going to take this. So I followed that. It looked so fresh. The temperature was just kind of perfect and the track looked fresh. And I got on that track and I followed it. Went to a cut. I'm like, oh, he's right here. Followed it. Got to another cut and he's going to be right here. Get down. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, the road's coming up. Get down to the road.
It's your buddy's boot tracks.
It was that other track that I first marked. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
you got to be kidding me. I'm like, both of those look so fresh, and that buck just motored.
No kidding.
So I went down, and then it went down this like treacherous area that was just nasty. So I was like, I'm going to regroup, get the vehicle closer. So I hiked back, and as I'm going back, he pops out of the woods. I'm like, hey. So he was on that same buck before that, on that other, so he was on the earlier time track.
That deer was just
That
cranking.
deer was cranking. Yeah.
I was looking for those last.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how fast and far that deer did.
Yeah.
Didn't stop for nothing.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, we both laughed about it because he was like, because he ended up catching up to where I started, and then I ended up catching up to where I first saw a track. And I was like, wow, these animals are something.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah.
When they want to go, they'll go.
Yeah.
Doesn't take them long to cover some serious ground.
Yeah. That was a good buck, good track.
It can be a little frustrating when you see a track but you know of another track and you're like, no, I don't think this is him. So you go back to the other track and then you come out. It's like, oh no.
We've all done it.
I just wasted. That happened to me this year in Maine.
Yeah.
I looked right at that track. I'm like, no, that's not him. Went back to where I knew it was him. Tracked him for 4 hours. Came right out to where I looked at that track. I'm like, you idiot.
It deflates. It kind of deflates you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little education there.
Yeah. But the process is fun.
Yeah, no, it sure is. Well, Ryan, this has been fun. Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
for
you coming
having us down.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Beautiful spot you got here.
Thank you.
And
It's nice to have John here. Me and John have known each other for a while. We actually fished a few, together and some stuff.
Yeah.
He was with
No
Pete,
kidding.
and I was with Jordan. So
Yeah.
did you beat his ass fishing?
no, those guys are machines.
Huh. I was hoping you were
We
going to say
tried.
yes.
We tried.
I haven't done it in a couple of years now.
Yeah, you've lost your talent. You're old,
Probably.
washed up.
Yeah.
Sell the boat.
Ran out of time.
Yep.
Oh, it's sold.
Yeah,
It's gone.
sell
Yep.
the fish bowls. It's over.
Yeah.
That's fun though. But anyways, thank you for coming
All right,
down.
thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
No one can save you. You better